everybody. As you become, everyone's welcoming into our webinar today, Fairygodboss Live, and we're glad to be here with our friends from Spectrum. We know that people will be joining over the next couple of minutes, so for the first minute or two, we'll kind of take it slow. Maybe if you're joining and you feel like it, in the chat function on the bottom, write in where you are. You say, oh, well, I'm in New York, I'm in Chicago, I'm in Sri Lanka. Some of you get funny and say, I'm in my living room, but we love to hear where you are as we let more attendees join. For those who just joined us, we'll give everybody a minute or two as more attendees join. Feel free in the chat if you feel comfortable letting us know where you are. We got New York, Boca Raton, which is wonderful this time of year, Denver, also the couch, which is great. Nice comfortable seat is always a great place to be during a webinar. We'll be beginning shortly here in a minute. Well, we welcome every one of our attendants, and we know more and more will come. We've got people from all over the States. We got somebody from Germany, somebody comfy on their couch. And we're so excited today to have this Fairygodboss live events with our friends from Spectrum. You know, when we wanted to put this together, we said, what's a great topic? Tips for accelerating your tech career. Sure. But Spectrum says, hold on, if we're gonna sponsor this, they better be top tips. So today's theme is 5 top tips for accelerating your tech career, and we're really excited about that. For those who aren't familiar with Fairygodboss, we are the largest career community for women. It is our mission to improve the workplace by increasing transparency. And we offer a variety of resources for the women in our community, like anonymous company reviews and career advice articles. We hold virtual recruiting events and many other things that are all designed to help the professional women in our communities to succeed in their careers. And that's why we think today's event sponsored by Spectrum is going to be so helpful. For those who have joined, just so you know, today's event is being recorded and it will be shared via an email afterwards. And while we're having this discussion with our panelists, if you have thoughts or ideas that you want to share on the topic, feel free to drop those into the chat function. Now, on the other hand, you might say to yourself, well, I got a question about something that they said that I want to follow up on. Use the Q&A function. So when you look at the bottom screen in the menu, there's one that has a little chat bubble. That's for ideas, thoughts. But the one that has 2 chat bubbles and says Q&A, make sure you drop your questions in that one, because that's the one we're going to look at the end. We're going to have about 10 minutes at the end, and we're going to ask the questions to our panelists and get their insights so we can make it nice and interactive for everybody. We're really looking forward to that. So here we are, 5 top tips for accelerating your tech career. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Spectrum. You know, Spectrum's products and services are powered and innovated by Charter Communications, which is the leading broadband communications company and the 2nd largest broadband communication and entertainment provider in the United States. And we're thrilled to be joined by 3 women leaders from Charter for a discussion about how women in technology at Spectrum are supported in their careers. And of course, we want to get their top tips for you to accelerate your career in tech. So thank you so much to Katie, to Marty, and to Srilata for joining us today. Why don't we begin by having each one of you introduce yourself and tell us about what you do at Spectrum. Maybe we could start with Katie and then have Marty, and then we'll finish up with Srilata on the introductions.
Sounds good. Thanks. Thanks so much for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Collins. I'm the Senior Director of Product Management and Development at Charter Communications. My team of product managers and developers is responsible for Spectrum Mobile, We're one of the newest mobile service providers in the US. Also, after Q1, we were named the fastest growing in terms of postpaid net adds new subscribers, as well as the fastest overall speeds, having faster mobile speeds than T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon. So we're very proud about that. I've been at Charter in product roles since 2015. My team is responsible for the Spectrum Mobile services and features. We launched our super fast 5G services last year, and early this year we launched the Apple Watch, which was a fun and exciting project. And so we get to support all of the latest smartphones, wearables, and tablets. So it's really a great job at Spectrum Mobile for sure. I love my job. Joshua, you might be on
Josh is
mute.
muted.
Yeah.
Try to hit that unmute button, couldn't quite get it. It's great to be able to say you love your job, Katie, especially when it has so much going on in it. How about you, Marty?
Hi, everybody. My name is Marty Moore. I also work at Charter Communications here in the Denver engineering organization. I've been here at the company for about 11 years, and my job is Group Vice President of Technology Implementation, which really means that I work on the processes that we use to deliver our network and product and services to our product partners, of which Katie is one of them, and also to our customers. So Katie is my customer. My job is to improve the way we develop using an agile methodology. So for those of you who are interested in software and hardware and platform development, that's a methodology that allows you to deliver incrementally versus all at once. And it makes us have the ability to deliver features and products to our customer much faster than we were able to do previously. So that's my job. It's been great. I've been doing it for about 1.5 years. And I also support our CTO, Stephanie Mitchell-Beal, who also is a female, thrilled to have a female CTO here at the company. I do executive communications for her as well. And I also love my job.
Katie, you're a good customer to Marty, right? You're not one of those
Yes.
customers.
Katie's a great customer.
For sure.
And Srilata, tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Srilata Kalurkar. I have been with Charter since 2017, and since my time here, we've been working on our video products. What I specifically do is lead a testing team for certifying and launching all of the Spectrum video applications across different IP devices. Since my time here, we've grown from 5 platforms to 9 platforms, and we're adding a couple more. Marty's also the common thread for us because a few years back, she was my group vice president as well. So I know her very well. I also love my job, and I'm very enthused about the fact that I work for women leaders as well, although my direct boss is very supportive and as a male, our GVP and SVP are also women, and all of us rock at our jobs.
Excellent. Let's dig in here. So you all love your jobs. You love the people you work with. That's great. What about the fact that you're in the tech industry? I mean, how did you get started in it? What made you say, I want to work with tech?
Well, I started out, actually, I went to engineering school. I went to the Colorado School of Mines in Golden, Colorado, and obtained a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering. And my best subject was communications theory and signal processing, which is all about RF engineering. So I was just meant to be in the industry, I think. But how I got started was, maybe like many of you, I was a college intern. I went to a job fair at my campus. I was an intern at US West, which has changed ownership many times now as part of Lumen Communications. And I started out, early in my career as a network planner, coming right out of graduated from college. Through the internship program, I got a full-time role at US West.
Just for the record, my best subject in school was gym. How about you, Srilata? How did you get into tech?
So my first half of my life was spent in India. I come from India, and um, like Katie, my choice was to go into a science field, and India is very traditional, as you may or may not know, but traditionally women chose to work in medical fields. Um, I kind of followed my brother because he chose to be in the engineering field, and I idolized him and I followed him into technology, and I actually love it. Um, and I did my undergrad in India, and I did my graduate school here and started working in the tech industry in the US. I've never looked back.
Well, I'm sure your brother's ears are ringing right now. And wonderful compliment to have. How about you, Marty?
Well, when I was in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I was getting ready to think about going to college. And I just was talking to my dad, and my dad said, you know, you should really think about software engineering. It's up and coming. It's, you know, it's going to require a lot of people. It's a great place for a female. And so I went and got my computer science degree and really just never really questioned it. I just really enjoyed it. I love solving problems, and coding is all about solving problems and building things. And my first job was in the United States Air Force. I actually went into the Air Force and went through the ROTC program to get my college paid for. And I love that. I did programming for satellite tracking systems in Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado Springs, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with from the movie War Games. And that's how I got my start. And then I left the Air Force and got involved in telecommunications, and that path led me to Charter here in Denver.
Wow, that's a fantastic journey. And it's so interesting. There's unique things about each one of your stories. There's also threads that run through each one of them. And one of them being that, you know, it's great to see the male figures in your life lending support, right? Saying, yeah, go into fields like this where you can be very successful, and recognizing the intelligence and the natural abilities you have to be successful in the tech field. You know, it's fantastic. Let's talk about a day in the life, right? So we'll start with Shri, and then Marty, then Katie. Shri, give us a day in the life.
Well, at Charter, I'm sure Marty and Katie will agree that you don't really get a lot of room to take a break, take a breath, but that's something you have to learn to do. You're always on your toes as start coming in, look at emails, which takes up quite a lot of time. And based on the emails and our chats and the meetings that we have, we kind of dynamically plan our day. Some things are better planned, but for the most part, it's very dynamic. And I think part of the reason that we are successful and people at Charter become successful is because they can manage their day dynamically. They know how to, you know, circumnavigate through all the changes through the day, but yet get work done.
Excellent. How about you, Marty?
Well, I spend pretty much all of my day talking to people. So at this level, it's all about what I'm doing is part of my role is to change the way people think and to change the way people work. So most of my time is spent talking to people about Agile, the benefits of Agile, how we can work better as a company, how we can deliver more effectively, how we can collaborate more. And so I spend a lot of time talking with people throughout my day. And then when it comes to the executive support side, I also spend time thinking about how can I put information together for our CTO that she can use to explain to her boss and her peers how well we're doing and how we're delivering. So that's how I spend most of my time.
A day full of talking to people, a woman after my own heart. That's what I love. What about you, Katie?
We also do a lot of talking to people, a lot of meetings. We are, as Marty mentioned, we're moving into safe, scaled, agile framework. And we have a lot of design thinking meetings. We work and iterate on requirements. And then when we have our requirements that we think are right. We get customer feedback. We engage in customer insight panels, do research, and better understand what the customer needs are. And then the fun part begins. We get to work with Google, for example, on rich communication services. We work with Apple on the latest video resolution features for the latest iPhones and the tablets. We work with all of the OEMs for all the smartphones, the wearables, the tablets, and also our mobile network operator, which is Verizon. Anytime we have a requirement, we have to write it twice, once for our internal developers and once for Verizon, because anything that our customers touch from a mobile perspective is actually writing over the Verizon network. So we do a lot of working with these big companies to get our ideas made into real life, real tangible products.
I think Shri nailed it. Every one of you's got a nonstop day, which is,
Yeah.
it's good, right? Makes you feel productive. But you know what? Let's take a moment. We'll take a breath. Right, we get to do a little reflecting, have a nice friendly conversation instead of, hey, you know what? I'm gonna take a swig of water. Nice little pause. Everybody at home, I hope you took a breath too, maybe a little swig of water too. Let's talk about some fun things here. What do you find most interesting about tech? Maybe we could get Katie's input for us, and then we'll get Marty and Shri next.
Most interesting about tech, I think that the tech, I'm just in awe when I think about all of the intricacies of mobile networks and everything that's involved just to make a call or even just to click like on a Facebook post. You would not believe all of the things that are happening behind the scenes. So it's, to me, technology is so fascinating. It's so interesting. It's magical. It's amazing that it works, but it does, and it helps to change people's lives. And in the mobile space, it helps people to be more connected, which I think that's a great use of technology.
Yeah, definitely very magical. It's a wonder what these little things that we carry around with us can do. What do you like the most, Marty?
I like the fact that technology is always changing. And if I wanted to leave and go to a different industry with my background, I'd be able to do that because I have a background in technology. And so there's never any chance of getting bored. There's always something new to explore. There's always something new to learn. And if I wanted to go do something else, not that I do, but if I ever wanted to go do something else, I definitely could explore other opportunities.
Yeah, don't worry, everybody. We're not letting Marty go nowhere. She's too valuable to spectrum of Charlotte. Don't worry. She was talking hypothetically. What about you, Shri?
Well, I find it fascinating that as technologists, we're also users of technology. And when, as a user of technology, our point of view kind of changes when we are using technology versus while we're developing based on the technology that we know. It's ever changing, like Marty said, but adapting to that change, using it in your work, and using it as a consumer of technology did actually two different things. It changes your mindset, it hones your skills, but it also is like, I can get impatient if my phone doesn't work. I mean, everyone does, right? If there's a slow response time. But if someone's complaining about, well, the video is a little slow on your app, I'm not happy about it. So I find that aspect of technology very fascinating.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be able to put yourself in the consumer's shoes. I can relate. I take it personally if it's not fast. You say it up. That's great. So we're here to talk about careers. Let's talk about some career stuff. When you look at your careers, what do you think are some of these skills that have helped you the most to succeed? Maybe we can get Shri to weigh in first, and then Katie, then Marty.
I think it's perseverance, it's tenacity, it's just there's always going to be a lot of noise, and I think that's true for any work area, not just technology, where you have to know to continue to ignore all the noise and persevere in the work. I will also caveat that by saying, as you grow, it is important to know when to stop being perseverant, when to stop pushing on an issue because that's old. We've moved on. We've talked about it, we've beaten it to death, and now we may have not come to an agreement, but we have a path forward. So let it go, move on to the next thing. We have lots of things to get done.
Perseverance. Wow, that's a great skill to develop. How about you, Katie?
I think that for me, the three things that come to mind are being an excellent communicator, being a connector, and being a fast learner. And so communication is important, for obvious reasons. It's important to be able to sell your ideas, sell your project, to motivate a team. You need to be an excellent communicator. And then connector, I think that is important to be the connector of teams, of people. Sometimes it happens, there are silos or organizations or even teams within teams that don't work well together. And if you can be the connector across those teams, that can be one, a source of strength for you personally, and two, make your project go better, to have everyone connected and aligned. And then three, just being a fast learner. How do you learn quickly? Use your resources, use vendors, use your partners, use your coworkers, and ask loads of questions so that you can learn everything you can possibly know about a certain type of technology, so that you can quickly become a SME in that area.
Yeah, right now, being a subject matter expert is something that so many people are being asked to develop, and it's certainly, we're talking about careers here. So if you want to stand out from the crowd for a promotion or for a hire, when you come in as a subject matter expert, you stand out.
Yep.
Absolutely. How about you, Marty? What do you think?
I'll make a comment on what Shri said earlier. Shri, you were talking about being a consumer of technology. Every time I use an app and something doesn't work right, I always think to myself, because we both come from a testing background, I would have tested that way better. Anyway, back to the original question. So for me, I really think that as we advance in our careers, it's becomes more important to build a good team. So as we go into management, we can't do it all on our own. So we really have to think about, how do we set people up for success, hire the right people, help them with their career development, make sure we have diversity, connect with them on an emotional level, and then help them grow in their careers, so that they're gonna come out there every day and they're gonna do an absolute wonderful job for you every day. So for me, it was all about building really, really good teams, because I can't do it all on my own.
Yeah, the sooner you learn that lesson, the better. The sooner you realize you don't got to be a Jill of all trades. These are perseverance, communication, subject matter expertise, being able to collaborate with the team. These are great skills. We say to the audience, if you got follow-up questions, you want to dig deeper on any one of these skills they talked about, feel free, drop those questions in the Q&A function. And at the end, we'll go over them with the team. But it's not all sunshine and roses. Shri was kind of bringing it out. You can run into dead ends. You can run into issues. So talk to me about a challenge that you faced during the career, and what you did to kind of overcome the challenge. Maybe we'll start with Marty first.
Well, let me think about that a little bit. When I took this new job, which was about 1.5 years ago, it was very different from anything I'd ever done before. So that was definitely a challenge. And I actually personally wasn't all that experienced with scaled agile. I had to start from the bottom up, and I had to learn it. So I, did my absolute best to read everything I could. I went to classes. I talked to our coach. We had some coaches here who were really knowledgeable, and got myself to the point where I felt like I could actually be comfortable leading a team to do something I really had never done before. So that was definitely a challenge. And the way that I overcame that was to, I think Katie kind of mentioned this, really connected with the people around me who knew. There were a lot of people here at Charter that had already been through agile transformations that I connected with, and really, sat down with them and said, what was your experience like? And what would you do if you were in this position, so I could learn, how do I take that next step? So that was my more recent, one of my more recent challenges.
Thanks for sharing that. And I love taking advantage of internal resources. People don't do that enough, right? But it goes back to what you were saying. You got to know, I don't have to know it all. I don't have to do it all. I got a team around me. How about you, Katie?
Kind of a similar experience as Marty. When I first started in mobile, I didn't have a mobile background. I come from a telecom and cable background, and I had parallel relevant skills, but no experience at all in the mobile industry. And my first job in mobile was mobile strategy. Like, you have to be an expert to do mobile strategy. So it was stressful. It was hard in the beginning. I found resources internally that could help me. I made great partnerships with someone that could help me do all the financial modeling that's involved in spectrum strategy. Partnered with our government affairs team that helped me do all of the advocacy with the Federal Communications Commission and all of the work involved there to get the FCC to agree to set spectrum licenses up a certain way that benefits us. And then I leveraged our vendors. Our vendors, they're constantly want to meet with us and sell us the latest thing. And so I listened to their pitch, but then I return 100 questions. What about this? What about that? How does this work? Whiteboard this out for me, to explain this to me. And that's how I became an expert quickly for spectrum in mobile industry.
That's fantastic. Giving a little love to the vendors.
Yes, they're a good resource. They and they want to get the time with you, and so take it and take advantage of it.
Absolutely, yeah. You'll never get a vendor tell you they want to talk to you. They're always ready to
talk. Exactly.
How about you, Shri?
Well, there have been quite a few, but honestly, the biggest challenge, and it was a challenge which I love taking on, was accelerating our delivery schedules. We in our industry, we talk about how quick everything changes, but our delivery times sometimes are very long drawn. So one of the challenges which I had to take up was, hey, if apps have to be sent to these various device app stores, we need to move quickly because our competitors are doing a much better job. So I had to work with a lot of our internal teams, some of who were on board immediately, and some took a little bit more convincing. I had to honestly say we spent a lot more time talking about it. And there was just one fine day, all the stars aligned, everyone agreed, as like, okay, let's take this 2-week period and shift left. So we completely shifted left, and I'm happy to say we brought our delivery from development to testing to launch from a 6-week cycle to a 2.5-week cycle within a month. So, and we've never looked back, and I think we've done a very good job. And again, it goes back to talking to people, communicating, and helping people alleviate some of their fears. Right? That is also important. What are your fears? What are you afraid of? What is the remedy to the fear? Is that an acceptable risk or unacceptable? Those are some of the things we talk about. And that was challenging because everyone has an opinion. But we worked through that and we're doing well now.
Yeah, you can hear the common theme in all of this. Communication. Talk to the people around you, your vendors, your teammates, your cross department. Talk, communicate. That's such a valuable skill to have nowadays. I want to talk about 3 things next. I want to talk about women in STEM fields. I want to talk about dealing with imposter syndrome and about how maybe we can get some more women in tech, right? So let's go around the horn. Shri, I want to ask you specifically. If you look at the US workforce, about half of it is women. But if we look specifically at the STEM workforce, it's only about like 27%. So what's been your experience being a woman in the STEM field?
Well, personally, I think I was one of the lucky few who had a very good support system, both from my family and friends. Engineering school, the ratio of men to women in my engineering school was pretty even. which is a little surprising, but it was pretty even. And I don't believe that any of my friends back from school ever dropped out from their jobs. Life kept going, but they've not dropped off. They've continued to work. So overall, I had a great support system, but I do feel that even in my team, we have very few women. And I believe with my personal experience of having that support system and friend circle, I'm able to continue. I believe that is actually a driving factor. Um, I have two children, pretty young, but my husband supported me. I did not want to quit my job, and he was fully supportive of that. But I do know I had a woman in my team who had a baby and just could not continue working. There's no right and wrong choice there, but I feel that women feel that they need to spend more time at home and they don't want to balance work and life. There is no work life balance. You have to make conscious decisions and you need to build that support system around you. Um, and that helps you stay put in the field.
Wow, that's some unique experience, but I think also, as you're mentioning, there's also a lot that overlaps with many members of our audience. When we're in a position like this, often you struggle with imposter syndrome, right? I think, especially when we talk about women in tech, that probably is something a lot of them experience. So what's been your experience with that, Katie? Have you ever struggled with that personally, or maybe have coached other people have? How do you deal with that?
Yes, that's a great question. And I have absolutely personally struggled with imposter syndrome. That first job in the mobile industry I mentioned, I felt in the beginning I was kind of thrown into the deep end of the pool, being in charge of spectrum strategy when I had no mobile or wireless background. And so that was a constant kind of voice in my head, not good enough. Why they give you this job? This is, you're an imposter. You can't possibly be good enough for this job. But you've got to really manage that internal voice in your head, and don't give that internal voice free rent-free stay inside your head. You've got to change the narrative and focus on, why did they pick me for this job? Well, I have great skills in building large infrastructures, large networks. I have great skills in working with our regulatory team and legal partners. And I learn quickly, and I have a long history in telecom and cable space. So changing the narrative for myself and kind of giving myself more positive self-talk helped. But also then doing the research, learning the job, learning the industry, leveraging those vendors, as I mentioned, becoming a SME, and then executing and having success. And then success after success helps to erase that imposter syndrome feeling. And so if there's projects like challenge projects or jobs that a person could take on and do well, that helps to build confidence and build that self-esteem and self-worth. And that will make the imposter syndrome go away. It's hard to, in the beginning when it's new, it's hard to eliminate it entirely, but just watch your narrative, focus on why you are chosen for this project or job. Remember what you bring to the table and focus on that, and try to diminish that imposter syndrome voice in your head.
Well, I love the tactical nature of that. And also, like you said, sometimes you just got to look in the mirror and say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me, right? For the young
Stuart
people.
Smalley, exactly.
That's an SNL reference. Marty, let's ask you, what can we do to encourage more women to get into tech?
Having raised a daughter myself, I think the actual decision is really made early on. It's unfortunate that somehow in that junior high school timeframe, girls make the decision to not be in a technology career. And I'm sure there's lots of studies about why that happens. So I think, to really increase those numbers from the ground up, we need to really participate in those programs at school that target getting young girls interested in technology, and helping young girls feel that they don't need to be intimidated because it's technically a male-dominated industry. Just getting out there and showing them that here we are, right? 3 women in technology, very successful at Spectrum, and we need to show girls that they can do the exact same thing, and that it's a great career, and it's just interesting, and it's not boring, and it's a lot of fun, and you can really go places with it. So I think trying to participate in those, if you have the ability to or the opportunity to, participating in those programs where you can go out to high schools and junior highs and talk to those young women and get them engaged, I think is probably the best way of increasing the numbers.
Absolutely, we got to get them young. That's right. Now to the audience, you got more questions? You want to dig deeper on some of the things they said about being in the STEM field, dealing with imposter syndrome, how we encourage more women to get into STEM? Drop them in this Q&A. We'll get to them in a little bit. But this is what everybody came here for. We're going to talk about the 5 tips that we promised you for advancing your career in tech. We're going to throw up a slide so that as we go through them, we can visually see them up on the screen. Let's go one by one. So what's the number 1 tip we would want to share with the audience? We have it up on the deck here. Katie, you want to speak to this?
You ready for me? I think it's
Marty's first, yep.
Oh, sorry, Marty, you want to speak to this?
No, that's okay. That's okay. I just wasn't sure. Okay. So this has been a theme that's pretty much been a part of what everybody has talked about. And that is to consciously build relationships that offer support and create opportunities, and not in a sort of methodical way, but, not just to figure out how to help yourself get promoted or get to where you want to be, but also to figure out how to offer other people support. And when I do that, and when I reach out to people and figure out a way to network in a way that offers support to other people, whether they are higher level than I am or the same level or levels they're not quite there yet, that support that I can offer is going to come back to me many times over in the future. So the more that I can create that network of people that support and help each other, the better it's going to be for me in the long term. And then, also thinking a little bit about having mentors that you can learn from. Katie talked a lot about this. Pick out a couple of people that you think are really people that you want to consciously learn from, and build relationships with those folks. There's also a difference between a mentor and a sponsor. Probably a lot of you have heard this already. A mentor being somebody that you can learn and grow from, and a sponsor who is somebody more senior than you are that can actually help you advance in your career. So help you get those opportunities for promotion, help you get those new and exciting projects. When other people are considering people for opportunities, they suggest your name because they know you and they know that you can do it. So building those mentorship and sponsorship relationships are also really important.
Excellent. Excellent way to begin the top 5 tips. Number 2, Katie, what's our second tip?
The second tip is to communicate clearly, confidently, and effectively. And this is a big challenge, especially when you have to communicate up levels to your leadership, to your executives. The biggest challenge I find as a technical person is I love the details, I love the technology, and I want to give as much information as I possibly can. But for our executives, they need to have that detail rolled up to a higher level theme or strategy. And so the challenge is, how do you say more with fewer words? And so my tech tip for communicating with executives is the concept of top of the waves. Think about capturing the top of the waves, not communicating the entire ocean. What is the top of the wave, most important takeaway from your project or your technology that you need your executives to believe in and support? Top of the waves.
Ride those top of the waves. I love it. Shri, give us a third tip here.
Ask questions. You know, ask questions is something very easy to say, right? It's like, don't be afraid to get technical, be curious, ask questions, but you'll get scoffed at sometimes. That's the reality. Ignore all the scoffing. Someone's thinking it, but you're asking it. I will also say encourage people around you. I mean, I have a team of people I lead, and I ask questions of them when they're working on something. Hey, this feature is behaving this way, and hence we can launch. Like, it is behaving this way, but does it seem logical? If I'm a consumer, would I like it? Take that feedback, encourage people to ask the developers, the designers, those questions. And also, as someone who has to do executive communication, I'm handed down a lot of responsibilities, like prepare this deck because this is a presentation. We have to proceed in a certain manner, put in your ideas, ask your leaders, what is the intent? Why are we doing this? That kind of helps guide you, prepare presentations, documents in a much better manner. So it is not just about the technology and the tools you use, it is also about asking questions about what is the intent of things. Questions are all encompassing: where, why, when, how. Please ask them. There's also questions around priorities. All of us have multiple priority number one things which have to be done right this minute. Don't be afraid to ask, of these number one priorities, what is the top one? What can I not do? Right? Because you will very soon be overwhelmed with the number of things you have to do. That is also an important question that you need to ask, and you need to not be afraid to ask that question.
Never be afraid to ask questions. That's absolutely right. Great tip. Who wants to take number 4? Who wants to give us the number 4 tip?
I'll give you the number 4 tip. So as you move forward in your career, there are going to be times when you want to convince someone to do something. Maybe it's a new project, maybe it's a new product, maybe it's a new training class. So the way to get to convince someone to go in the direction that you think they need to go in is to use data. It really helps take the emotion out of it. So you're not making an emotional plea. You're basically saying, look, here are the options, and this option is the best option because it has the data to support it. So take some time, do the math, put your business case together and say, look, if we do this, we're going to increase sales by X%. We're going to increase the employee knowledge base by X%. So if you have that data to back you up, then going into that sell job or that meeting where you want to convince somebody to do what you want them to do, it's much more likely to be successful if you have some data to support your decision-making process.
Excellent. That is a fantastic tip. Data is king nowadays, so you got to have that to support decision making. And Katie, why don't you run us out? Give us that number 5 top tip.
Okay, so this one may feel like a little bit of tough love for some of you, but if you're getting stuck in, or you're worrying about or being fascinated with being the only woman in the room, my best advice is get over it, and so will they. Act like you belong there, and also think about other women who maybe weren't included and should be, and bring them along. Then you won't be the only woman in the room. But one of the best quotes, one of my favorite quotes from the notorious RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, was that Women belong in all the places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are the exception. And that is true in business and technology for sure. And so if you do feel yourself, feeling subconscious about that, think about that quote and think about what she did in her industry and how you can be a change for the technology industry as well. Act like you belong there, and your audience will come along with you. And you do belong there. You do.
Great tips, plus a bonus Ruth Bader Ginsburg quote. What more can you ask? That's fantastic. Now, what I'm going to do here for the next 5 minutes, instead of we had a couple of questions about Spectrum. Instead of asking these questions, let's just have an open forum. Let's talk. Talk to us about what the culture's like, what the benefits are for working there. What would you encourage other women? Why should they come and join Spectrum?
I think our culture at Spectrum is fantastic. I find it to be very collaborative, very supportive. There's a lot of great talent here, a lot of great people. It's a fun working environment. We work hard, but we also have fun and enjoy the work that we do. And I have to say, we don't have mean people. The people that I work with are all, great coworkers. We don't have that one mean person in our team. Everyone's just awesome to work with.
And I think that comes from the leadership too. So our CEO, who joined the company right after I joined, actually, his name is Tom Rutledge, is very strategic. And I've worked at other companies where the company just didn't really know where they were going. They were doing reorgs all the time. They didn't have clear goals and objectives. And Tom is very different. He has a very clear step-by-step strategy to make Spectrum a great company. And so from the time I joined, the company was only 17,000 to now almost 100,000 people based on Tom's vision. It's really exciting to work for a leadership team who's not just guessing, like they know how to make this company great. So that's been really exciting. That's why I like working here. That's one of the reasons why I've stayed.
I agree. I think talent is recognized. It doesn't matter how much experience you have, which background you came from, you get the job done and someone will recognize you. People will recommend you cross-functionally, not in the team you work for, but people in other teams reach out to you because someone has said, hey, reach out to this person. She knows what she's talking about, or he knows what he's talking about. I personally don't believe that we don't encourage women. I think three of us here are examples on women being encouraged. Our leaders are women. A lot of my colleagues are women. A lot of the people higher ups are men who encourage women, and they don't look at us as you're a man, you're a woman, you need to fit into this box. No, you get your work done, you're recognized. So talent is what is important.
Can't deny talent. And there's that phrase, future is female. It sounds like Spectrum, the present is female. Forget the future, you're doing it now. That is great. I know we have some questions coming in from the audience, and these are some sharp questions, so I want to make sure we get. Let me pull up the audience question. So we got one here. So basically the question is, how do I stay focused on my work and let go of some of the distractions? Let me give you a little background, right? Like a little story here. We have a young lady. She's a professional. She's got a master's degree. She's an intelligent person here, but she struggles because she feels like she's surrounded by coworkers that don't really support each other, right? Maybe there's a little backbiting, a little gossiping, you know how it goes. So she's asking, with a situation like that, how do I stay focused on the work? How do I not get distracted?
Yeah.
What do you think? Well, we'll leave it open to everybody. What do you think? Well, how can we help Anita?
Well, I can take that first. I think stay focused on your goal, whether at work or at life. You want to achieve something, even outside of work. you want to achieve something, you need to know what your end goal is. There's always going to be distractions, and that will be true irrespective of what company you work for, right? And where you are in life. Where there is people, there is politics. Um, it'll follow. Grass is always greener on the other side. So what you cannot change, don't focus on that. What you can change and influence, which is what you want to do and what your goals are. If you stay focused on that, it's tough, but eventually you'll get your work done. It takes a little bit of discipline though to get to that place.
Yeah, and I'd also say, set a good example. If somebody's starting to get into that gossipy type conversation, just, politely change the subject and move on. Try to spend your time with people who are not going to spend their time gossiping, because while it's fun in the moment, it's always going to lead to negative feelings and thoughts later. So I would say just, set a good example by not engaging. And like Shri said, it's hard to do in the moment. But just kind of think to yourself, I don't need to engage in this negativity. I'm just going to change the subject to something more positive, and then we're going to move on and talk about something else.
I think that if the person is struggling with focus, like too many distractions, I think this tip actually comes from Warren Buffett. But you take all of the things, all the stuff, your priorities. You got too many priorities. Put them in order, stack rank them from number 1 through number 20. Write down your top 20 most important priorities in order. Then focus on your top 3 and actively ignore, like refuse to think about or work on number 4 through 20. Like don't even think about it. But the act of putting them in the top 20 list lets you see the whole view of what you have to work on. But then actively ignoring number 4 through 20 really makes you focus on your top 3 most important, most crucial priorities. And then the rest, that noise, you can wait. It'll still be there probably for you once you get your top 3 most important done.
All great advice. I hope that was very helpful to you. Young lady who wrote in with that question. Somebody says, I love coding, programming skills, building that kind of skill set. What are some resources that maybe we could share to kind of continue building those type of skills?
So at Charter Spectrum, we have a lot of internal resources. We have learning portals where there are skills you can learn. There's freeware available, which you can use to self-develop. But it also depends on the organization, the company you work for. Some companies are not as, their learning centers are not as well-defined as a big company like Charters are. At that point of time, I'd say look at online resources. There are tons and tons of resources and online communities. Identify what is your interest area. One very strong advice I would give you is don't try to do everything. The internet is a quagmire. You'll very soon get distracted with 20,000 things out there. Find your interest area and focus on that interest area and look for the tools, the coding skills, the tool sets, the workspaces that you require and build out of that. I would say that's the most cost-effective way. Of course, there's also the community college, the local colleges, and the bigger schools that you can go to. They're more expensive and not as time-friendly as some of the online resources. So the internet is your friend, but tread carefully, be focused.
Yeah, I was really going to put a plug in for community college. I think they have some really good classes, and a lot of them are online and not that expensive. Shri mentioned it. I also wanted to mention too, you don't necessarily have to have a computer science degree to go into technology. There are ways to do it in such a way that, if you didn't do that and you have a degree in something else, but you still really want to go into technology, a great way to get in actually is to become a tester. So a lot of people with really good analytical thinking skills can become testers and then eventually become developers. So that's kind of one route to go if you don't quite have those coding skills yet, and that'll help you build those technical skills to let you break into technology.
That's a good one. I was just going to mention that, put a plug in for Charter. We have tuition reimbursement programs for employees. So if you did want to take some community college courses, but you were strapped financially, you can use your tuition reimbursement to pay for those courses, is one tip. And then also, as part of the Agile methodology that Marty's team is rolling out, an important aspect of that is to reserve time for creative thinking, and we have hackathons. So we have contests, we build teams, we host hackathons to take ideas and develop them further, and then compete with each other, each team who has the best idea and which idea is the best at solving a business or customer problem. So hackathons, I think, are a good way to learn, the coding skills, the technology, just being part of a hackathon team.
Excellent. Well, the Internet Community Colleges Hackathon, lots of resources to take advantage of. So let's end on this question. This is a great question. I want you to picture, we'll start with Kate. Picture young Katie in your mind. What if you could tell young Katie one piece of advice, what would you say to her?
I would say that don't sweat the small stuff. Don't let that imposter syndrome get you down. Keep going. Don't have so much anxiety and worry about, am I doing this right? Am I doing well? Am I good enough? Young Katie, you are good enough. There's a reason why you're here. And you know what? Sometimes you're gonna have an off day, but young Katie, your C game is probably better than someone else's A game. So don't be too hard on yourself.
Very good advice. Marty, you're face to face with little Marty. What do you say to her?
Little Marty, before I had children. So I've had, children and raised them. And my best advice, this is going to go back a little bit to work-life balance. A company will take everything that you give. And so if you give and give and give, and you work overtime, and you just consistently put yourself out there and give yourself that stressful experience, the company's just going to let you. The company's not going to stop you. A nice boss might say, hey, you're burning yourself out a little bit, but maybe not. And so I, as young Marty, could have done a better job of really setting those boundaries myself and managing that stress myself versus just, when I was younger, kind of going with the flow and letting those things happen to me. So take control of your stress, take control of your work-life balance, set those boundaries. You're not going to get fired, I promise you. And like Katie said, top 1 through 20, if you can only do 3 of them, you go to your boss and say, look, these are all the things you've asked me to do, and these are the things I can get done. I'll get to these other things later. And I guarantee you that boss is going to understand. They're not trying to burn you out, especially at Spectrum. Absolutely.
Great, that's wonderful advice. And then Srilata, talk to little Shri, who's palling around with her brother in India. What can you say to her?
Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't forget to have fun. Because at the end of the day, the stress of the work is going to be there, whether you do the top 3 or you cannot do the top 3, you only reach the first one. As Katie and Marty mentioned, do it, have fun while doing it, but don't take yourself too seriously. Don't forget yourself, because at the end of the day, we need to come back home. We need to have our playtime, whether it is binge watching, hanging around with friends, whether it's just being by yourself, reading a nice book. You won't be able to enjoy any of that unless you leave your work and just remember to have fun. That's very important, because otherwise you're going to get burnt out. You really will get burnt out. Like Marty said, any company will take what you can give. They're not going to say no.
That's great advice, yeah. I mean, what are we doing all this for if we're not gonna enjoy ourselves? If it's not gonna add to the richness of our life? This has been, in my opinion, dynamite. Katie, Marty, Srilata, you have shared so many great pieces of information, insights about women in tech, about Spectrum. And I think you've really helped us understand how can, if I want to join Spectrum as a woman in tech, how do I stand out? Be a subject matter expert, know how to communicate, and don't let that imposter syndrome tell you not to apply. Apply. Be part of, who wouldn't want to work with these three wonderful women? Thank you all so much great help. For those who listen, we hope you enjoyed. We hope you got a lot out of it. Visit Spectrum's page in Fairygodboss and learn more about the company and learn how you can join the company. Thank you to everybody. I hope this was a bright spot on your Thursday, and we look forward to speaking to you all again sometime soon, all right?
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice to see
Take
everybody.
care.
Bye.